Hi, my name's Rachel, and today I am going to be talking about how my family lost 100 acres. Yes, we lost 100 acres, and it's actually not who you think we lost 100 acres to. This is not professional advice. This is not legal advice. This is only for educational purposes. So if you need those services, please contact someone professionally for those services. Now, getting off into it, I'm probably going to break this video up into two videos. I'm going to probably have a part one. I'm probably going to have a part two. And I'm probably going to refer to notes just so that I won't get off course, won't start rambling, or become boring. Also, you may want to get you something to drink because it probably is going to get interesting as to who got the 100 acres. How we got the 100 acres was through my great-great-grandfather, who was a slave out of Kentucky. That's what I was told. And we have the deed to the property. The property, he actually paid it off in installments. So the property passed through our line generationally from one generation to the next. And it was inherited from my grandmother's side, who I didn't know because my grandmother passed away when my mom was only 9 months old. So my mom didn't even know her own mother. However, my mom had older siblings. And so my mom deferred to her siblings in regards to this land. And my aunt and uncle, they would pay taxes to my great uncle, who was the last remaining sibling of my grandmother. Because when my grandmother and her siblings were alive occupying the property, they basically knew different areas of the 100 acres that they considered their portion or area. The land never was divided out. That's why it's considered undivided interest. And typically that's what the heirland land is undivided. And so the heirs share this land and basically have freedom to use all of the 100 acres. However, my grandmother's siblings, they basically had their section of the 100 acres and everybody respected that. Nobody had a problem with that. So when my great uncle was taking care of the property in regards to paying the taxes and maintaining. Well, when it was time to pay the taxes, my aunt and uncle would pay the taxes for my grandmother's portion. And that was fine. Nobody had a problem with it. Nobody thought that that was odd. And I know you're probably thinking like, well, that is odd. Why would someone give someone cash to pay taxes? And you have to understand in that time, in that generation, and there was so much trust that you would give the cash because the property was undivided. So there was only one tax account. So you would give the cash to the person who paid the taxes, in which my great uncle paid the taxes. We knew the taxes were paid. There were no delinquencies or no late bills that would show up. So we never had a problem while my great uncle was alive in regards to the taxes not being paid. I know, didn't have a problem with that. So it wasn't odd that they paid it that way. And so my great uncle, before he passed, he came to my family and he told them, let's divide the property. Nobody came. Nobody went. And he wanted to divide this property. So he passes away. The property is still undivided. Well, my aunt, who was his wife, who we loved and we respected, we treated her like blood relative. She stepped up and she started to do the same thing that my great uncle did. She started to take the cash from my aunt and my uncle for our portion, or my mom's portion, and would pay it to her so that she could pay the taxes. And so this went on. Nobody had a problem with that. We didn't think anything was odd. It was like, okay, she's going to continue doing the same thing. And we love and respect her just like we loved and respect my great uncle. So it wasn't a big deal. Okay. One of the things is just remember, In the state of Texas, anyone can pay the taxes. A stranger can actually rise up and pay taxes on your property, and the tax office is going to accept the payments. So just understand that if your name is not anywhere showing, meaning you give someone cash, then there's a chance that your information is not going to be recorded as showing you paying taxes. So you want to make sure to note that in the event that you have ownership with someone else, there's some kind of way in paying these taxes that there's a record showing that you have also paid some taxes. Okay, so moving along. Everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, one day, out of nowhere, we get a call from my cousin, because let me back up. My cousin, my generation, actually wants to build a house on the family land because he's getting ready to retire. And nobody cared or thought that was odd, because it was always family land and nobody was barred from the land. You could go on the land and do what you wanted to do. So it was like, okay, he went and started getting his paperwork and all of this together. And then he found out we no longer own the land. Yes, we no longer own the land. He came back shouting to the rooftops almost in regards to us not owning the land, because this was in the country in Southeast Texas. And so he came back and we don't own the land. And we're like, what? We don't own the land? Like, we own the land. No, we don't own the land anymore. So we were just like, could not believe it, right? Now, I know you're saying, who got the land? How did this happen? Okay, well, y'all gonna come in for this one here. The person that got the family land is the great aunt that was married to my great uncle. Yes, yes, she got the family land. We were stunned. We were shocked. My mom and my aunt actually didn't believe my cousin. Did not believe him. And I know that probably hurt his feelings. I know it did, because it would have hurt my feelings. And when he was trying to tell them, and they were in denial, and y'all are probably saying, well, where were you? You supposed to be in real estate. Where were you? Yes, I was heavily in real estate and just going about my business. Wasn't right, but still just going about my business until, because I'm like everybody else, they handling it. They got it. And I am like down the totem pole as an heir. So I can't go over the elders. Of course not. We don't do that. So it kept going on. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, something's not right. Something's not right. And then she started to listen. And when it was all said and done, it was just that my aunt took the land. And I'll get off into on the second video as to how my aunt took this family land. But the key thing here is, number one, make sure your name is showing somewhere on tax payments. I am not going to fault my aunt and my uncle for paying in cash to a relative, because that's where they were, and they deferred to the elders, and it was out of respect, and that's just basically how they grew up. So I'm not, going to slight them in any kind of way behind that. However, do I recommend that today? No, I certainly do not. Make sure your name is showing somewhere on the payments. The second thing is be involved. Be involved, because I'm getting ready to wrap up the video. But the second thing is be involved. I don't care if you're a teenager, because I hear sometimes with people being young, just like my mom, she was the baby. And so when they told her we got it, she like, well, they say they have it, in regards to paying taxes. My uncle told her, don't worry about it, and she was free to do whatever she wanted to do on the land. They never basically told her that she couldn't, or no one. So I wouldn't recommend not being involved. Be involved, regardless of how old you are, regardless of how far you're down in generations. If you're an heir to property, or if you co-own the property with someone, make sure you stay involved. Now, I'm wrapping up this video, and I just want to thank you all for listening to this video, and I'm asking for you to like and to subscribe. And if you would be nicer, share the video with someone. Until the next time, bye.